Hi, I'm Renee Main and welcome to the Hedonistic Way. I am having unadulterated pillow talk with global thought leaders and game changers who are disrupting the status quo and are kicking ass in life and business because they're doing it the stereo untypical way. So today I am with a divine soul who is all things consciousness, and he awakens and empowers leadership, companies, brands, individuals, and he is sourcing the way. I have a little bit of information about the resonance mapping that he does, but I really want to delve into this because I was really just divinely guided to contact Jeff. And let's welcome you in. Hi, Jeff. Welcome.
Good day, Renee. So nice to be with you.
Yeah.
Calling in from the North Shore of Oahu, Hawaii.
I know, and I just got a little sneak peek of the beach, and it looked amazing. Oh, yeah.
There's a more full-on view.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So do you live there, Jeff?
I do not, but it seemed like a wonderful spot to stop over on my way back to the mainland USA from Queensland.
Oh, nice.
Southeast Queensland.
Yes, I seen you were in Queensland. So, yeah, because actually, Ella Hall was with you in Queensland. Is that right?
Yes, she was. Dear Ella. Wonderful. So she's a friend of yours then.
Yeah,
Perfect.
she's a part of the summit.
Cool.
As well, yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
naturally.
Yeah. So, why don't you actually let me ask you, I've had 3 questions that I'm asking everybody that's a part of this hedonistic way. What is your nickname?
Wow. That's funny, right? Everyone should have an answer to that, but I haven't had a nickname in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Wow. So my bowling name about 2 decades ago was Dick Dubois. I had a real French thing for a while. I fell in love with French language, and so somehow I had to have a French twist on my bowling name, Dick Dubois. And my name being Jeff, it's close to GF, the French letters, and so Jean-François was another kind of self-styled nickname.
Oh,
but in the last few years, I don't know. Maybe you can come up with one. I invite you and the listeners to submit their suggestions.
Awesome. I love that. I love that you've got the most, decadent nickname, like the fanciest nickname, you know? I love that. That's so cool. Tell me, what is on your bedside table?
On my bedside table? Well, right now I'm staying in a surfer's hostel, so I don't know how decadent that might sound, but it's a lot of fun. And so I have earplugs. Another fellow in the room has a tendency to snore very loudly, but I have excellent earplugs.
Yeah.
And bottled water. I really prefer not to use plastic, so I'm reusing this bottle many times.
Yeah.
Nothing particularly exciting. I know this is supposed to be unadulterated pillow talk, but not a lot going on my pillow right now.
That's all right. That's good. It's simple, and you got the basics. So, that works. That works.
Definitely.
And what is turning you on at the moment?
Well, okay. So there I have a ready answer that might even be juicy. So, I met Ella at a 3-day intensive experience called The Consciousness of Money, which I co-facilitated with a couple of dear friends, including Sarah McCrum, her husband, Niko Dojmovic, if I said his name correctly. I think I probably did. He's Bosnian, and they're awesome. So one of these days, maybe you'll get to hang out with them in Queensland. But so we put our heads and hearts together, and we received, actually, that it would be more than useful to gather people together, change makers especially, to explore our relationship with money and also the question of what is money, and if we were in relationship with money, if money were like our life partner, how good is that relationship, and how might we make it a whole lot better, and what might happen, what might be the potentially even hedonistic outcomes of having a thriving relationship with money. So yeah, that's turning me on because it works. It turns out people are experiencing life transformation, and it's only 3 days, but we go really deep. And because money connects with, well, really just about everything, the way we've structured our societies, and relationship gets brought in, so interpersonal connection, work, obviously, how do we earn money, but also a much more expansive understanding of what money is, what abundance is, how money is in some way the delivery system for life to bring us joyful experiences and to support creativity, and especially collective creativity and collaboration. So money touches on everything, and when we become more conscious in our relationship, miracles seem to happen. So right after the retreat, it's pretty typical to hear people report that some business deal they've been working on just kind of closed overnight when it was dragging on previously. So there's some magic to consciousness, and I'm wearing a consciousness t-shirt. Consciousness, it's the real thing. I don't know if it reads the right way on the screen there, but so consciousness turns me on most generally. But if we talk about consciousness, it is a little general. It's a little amorphous, and when we bring money into the picture, people are pretty interested in that. So it's like bringing together the very tangible, the very worldly, with that which actually makes it all possible, and that's a delicious, powerful combination.
Absolutely. So with that, Jeff, I want to know, you talk about what the consciousness of money, or what is money, because the thing is, you know, I think there's so many game changers that, you know, they have this genuine burning desire to make a difference in the world. Why do so many people struggle with money and it coming into their awareness? Or what is it about money that it seems like the sticking point for a lot of people?
Right. So there will be infinitely many answers to that question that will depend on different perspectives and where people are in life. What comes to me as a useful kind of general answer is that money is like the connective tissue of being. And so there are beings, there are many people, there are awesome human beings, and there are so many human beings who are suffering, and that suffering can take many forms, one of which is the experience of lack, of scarcity in all kinds of ways, scarcity of money, scarcity of loving connection, and a sense of belonging. Therefore, scarcity of belonging means not belonging in the world, feeling out of place, and generally isolated. So those are all forms of isolation, where life isn't able to connect with us, and we're shut down in some way. And so if we trace that back, there's a belief somewhere that we're actually separate, that somehow there's life and there's us. And if we were really worthy, you know, life would be treating us better. So when we address that fundamental sense of not being worthy, not being enough because we're cut off from life, from the divine, from source, when we heal that belief in the separation, well, you know, we tend to experience what we believe. So if we believe separation, we believe we're not enough, then life is awesome at showing us what we believe through our experiences every day in every way. So when that belief begins to transform, and we somehow, something in us shifts, and we know, well, we are enough, and we're willing to explore what being enough actually looks like, well, life is only too willing to start feeding us experiences of how we're enough. And right, so, and then that can take all of the previously mentioned forms. Enoughness, sufficiency of money, sufficiency of interpersonal connection, and loving contact with, whether it's a life partner or, you know, just people all around us, awesome, amazing human beings. And so, you know, life overnight can transform. And then as we deepen into that knowingness that we're enough, that we're absolutely connected to the source of life, to universal consciousness, then our businesses will start to prosper, because our businesses are part of the reflective mechanism that shows us what it is we believe in the depths. And that reflective mechanism is needed because we don't know to go looking under the really, really deep down rocks. So they come to us in the form of our daily life and experiences. And so game changers have a high mission. And so it's really important that game changers get it, that game changers actually know the truth of their own being, because that is what will be ultimately empowering. So when a game changer doesn't get it in the depth of themselves, like that they're important, that they're enough, that they're divine, then my experience is the game changers tend to get hit over the head the hardest. Yeah. So, your audience, your wonderful constituency of luminous beings may resonate with what I'm saying. Like, why do the light workers tend to often, have it hard? Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. Yeah. Maybe it's because collectively there's an opportunity for us to really reconcile at the root level of our being with the divine, with our source. And it's not hard to do because it's true. We just need to accept it. So that's the reconciling, the relaxing in to the knowing of our divine essence.
That's, so much of what you say there, I think I love it. So how can then people listening, how can they begin to go to these depths and get to the root? What can they begin to explore, ask, do in order for that to happen?
Right. Well, again, there'll be infinitely many answers to that question. Yeah. So just kind of listening, because this is a guided conversation. I love being in an intuitive context where we can bring all of ourselves and we can follow the energy wherever it leads. Yeah. And a real theme recently has been relaxation. In a sense, stepping back from needing to do so much, because what we definitely don't need to do is prove ourselves, because we're worthy from the beginning. Our birthright is divinity and the experience of the abundance of energy and light and everything that brings with it in terms of the material existence. So we don't need to necessarily do a lot, but maybe we can stop doing so much and we can relax and allow deep processes within ourselves, which are already at work, to work unhindered. Because that deep belief that we're separate from God. I'll bring the G word in because some people resonate with that, and I don't want to be excluding anything that resonates for anyone here. If we believe that we're separate in that way, then we are just so shut down. So we can make the decision to put that belief on hold, and we might not put it on hold completely, but that's something that we can do. We can decide to revisit some fundamental assumptions about who and what we are and our relationship with all that is. And then those deep processes I'm referring to have an opening. So just a little willingness on our part creates the opening for a powerful force of transformation to come through. So it's like that, and this may be a little cliche, but it's like that little green shoot that's coming through the crack in the pavement. That blade of grass that then comes through, and once enough of it is through, it can expand into more of a plant, and then over time the pavement breaks up, and we can greatly accelerate that process by just practicing opening and relaxing. And in terms of relaxing, I do want to kind of make a note that Sarah and Nico are amazing, and part of the Consciousness of Money retreats, a big part actually, are relaxing and allowing the energy, the deep, deep down energy to do the work. Because we have so much support, we don't have to do it all ourselves.
Absolutely. And do you think then, Jeff, are we trying too hard?
Well, in general, I would say yes. I would say yes. And then, of course, the famous Star Wars quote, try not, do. We don't need to try. That part of us which knows how to do can be allowed to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a certain amount of doubt involved in trying as well. Like, well, I might not make it, but I'm going to give it a good college try. I invite us to boldly step forward in the knowing that one way or another, we will make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We might not know where we're going, so we also need to relax any preconceived ideas about where we're going even. And that's frustrating to the mind, because the mind loves to have a goal. Maybe that's a way in which we try too hard, because once we have a goal, then we have to work really hard to get there, even if life wants to go somewhere else. And if life wants to go somewhere else, then, that's where we're going.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And it's almost like, I think for a long time, like I was a big, 15, 20 years ago, I was a big goal setter. And if like towards the end of the year, if I hadn't accomplished that goal, I would be like a bat out of hell trying to get that thing just so I could cross it off that list. But when we don't, there's a feeling at the end of it that we've failed in some way, that we haven't tried hard enough, that, whatever it is. And so now I think I take a leaf out of what you're saying is I go, you know what, like I want to explore this. I want to feel this. And, I was saying just before in another interview, finding that pleasure in moments, I think that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Every moment is so rich. If we become curious about the present moment, this moment right now, there's an awful lot to savor. And at the same time, part of the present moment is curiosity about what's next. And so always to be open to something even better than we could plan. But I find that sometimes planning has its place, like when I need to purchase an airline ticket. But I know, like, the moment comes. I might not know when it will be, but I'll know when the moment comes. It's now. Like something in me, because I'm really listening intuitively, something in me knows, okay, that's part of this moment. So there's never any anxiety around, when am I going to book that ticket? I just know it's going to happen eventually. I know eventually I'm going to create my expense report, because there'll come a moment when I'm really excited about, of all things, creating an expense report. So I know that's the moment. And it brings me joy. So even really, really mundane drudgery, if you look at it that way, can bring joy, and therefore isn't actually drudgery. So it's about right timing and being really sensitive to the right timing for things.
Absolutely. What are some of the practices that you do? Because I love that you say even the most mundane task, you can find joy and love and pleasure in those moments when you tap in and you're guided to do so. And the thing about it is that you'll smash them out way quicker than if you're not connected and trying to just do it anyway because you feel like it has to.
Totally.
Yeah. What do you do to tap into that intuition? Because you are so intuitively guided. So for you, like sourcing the way is literally like, that's you, isn't it? Like you live and breathe it.
Yes. Well, the name is what we do. And so I've got a wonderful business partner named Maria Beck. I want to presence her in this conversation because we've created Sourcing the Way together. And then we have, let's say, an extended family of practitioners and friends and clients. And, what's amazing is that the clients tend to become co-creators because they get activated and lit up. And, everyone who's kind of in the field with us has a gift to offer. So we end up working together and the family grows as a result. So what are some of those practices that allow us to light up, that allow me to light up? Well, doing what brings joy for sure is a platform. So what brings joy for me is, let's call it R&D, consciousness R&D, like meditating and seeing what I receive and using, it's not kinesiology, but it's like that, using guidance methods to get yes and no answers is how it started. And then that became much more refined, and you could say multiple channels opened up, including, receiving verbal information and visually, etc. So I love to receive divine guidance, let's say, and like for me that provides energy as well as in the information, and then that energy can carry me through whatever other tasks might not be automatically joy bringing, but everything will bring joy if it's in right timing. So that divine guidance that's pretty much always on at this point tells me when to do those quote other things that are not usually considered fun. And so for me, I call it sourcing. Sourcing is the guidance practice, and there are many forms of sourcing. So I'll use that as like a general category. And different people will be wired uniquely. Some people will do muscle testing per se, and there are like 4 or 5 different forms of that. Some people work with the pendulum. those are just two of many, many examples. And so I would say practice whatever is your connection with inspiration. Meditation is one way. So if meditation seems to be what works for you, and I'm addressing like the big you out there, then do it. Just do it regularly. But it doesn't mean at the same time every day, but make a practice of connecting with your vaster self, of connecting with intuition and guidance and source. So again, I call that sourcing. That's really my practice and my life. And so I would say also being in novel situations is really important for creative flow. And so I'm in Hawaii now for 5 days to theoretically write, but I'm not doing a lot of writing. I am doing a lot of sourcing and receiving really interesting information about something called the architecture of realization, which is like a consciousness technology that we use at Sourcing the Way. So maybe that will become one or many books at some point. Anyway, so being in Hawaii stirs the creative juices for me. It's a different energy field, and I find that different kinds of insights come through when I'm here. And when I'm in Australia, different kinds of insights come through, and a different kind of work happens there, although I can't technically be working in Australia because I'm a tourist, but light working, let's say. And then different parts of the USA. When I'm in Colorado, the high mountains, that's a kind of energy where I stay there. It's like the US version of the Tibetan plateau, and actually there are a lot of Tibetan Buddhists there, so I get a certain flavor of spirituality in these different locations. I was in India for 5 weeks, and I visited the south and many sacred sites. So maybe not everyone's able to travel all the time. You've got a family or whatnot, but there are always novel situations available, and cultivating those, I would say, is a really good idea, so we don't fall into a routine that drains life. If we're going to be hedonistic, right, we want more life, please.
Absolutely.
So we open ourselves to all kinds of experiences. And I'm not the best example because I would say I don't actually do a lot of the usual fun things. Like, I'm a horrible tourist. I just like to be in the vibe of places. So for me, it's sort of more low key. I'm not doing skydiving or shark caging, as many people around me are doing. I'm not surfing the big waves, but I'm very happy to watch people surf the big waves. And that qualifies as a novel experience in my book.
Absolutely. I'm exactly the same. I'm usually like, where are the tourists? I'll go over here. I like to, that's how I like to travel too. Tell me about resonance mapping.
So resonance mapping, I've been working with something I don't fully understand for, let's say, 8 years, and that something has become clearer and clearer to me as I've worked with it. So I jumped into the unknown back in 2010, early 2011, initially just receiving yes and no information. And the way that showed up for me was, a few years before, let's say in the 2000s, I had this really powerful experience, which later I discovered was a Kundalini awakening type experience of powerful energy moving up my spine and hitting the top of my head. And, for hours, I felt like I was being carried around the room by the back of my neck. And it was pretty interesting stuff. And I had an insight just before that happened. And I happened to be very interested in, let's say, modern physics. And I was thinking about different particles and, what energy must be doing for those particles to exist, and all that sort of neither here nor there. But I was fascinated, and I must have hit upon something that was actually true in that inquiry, because that then unleashed this powerful energy. And ever since, I feel a kind of rising, sometimes tingling sensation in the spine, and that corresponds to a yes. So I knew, that feels so good. There's something true here. So if I'm going through life and I feel that, actually it takes other forms now that are much subtler. I don't need my head to blow up in order to know that something is a yes. That was helpful the first time because I was so unaware. I was so disconnected. I needed to be, woken up with, with a powerful experience. So I had that. And then, I had the yes as a result of this body sensation. And then eventually I got a no, which was a pressure in the left temple, and still is. So I had a way of asking a question, like, is this optimal, left or right? And usually I would ask questions that were about things that I couldn't obviously work out with the mind. It seems that's the better use of divine guidance. But nevertheless, so if I got a yes, then I made the commitment. Unless there's a really good reason not to, I will do that. And if I got a no, then I would really look closely at whether something I was contemplating was actually the thing to do. So I began to live according to the yes, and well, really the yes, to follow the yes. And then I had an insight that, this is a long version, hopefully it's all right. I had an insight that I can be more refined than yes and no. Maybe is really vast. That territory in between is really, really wide. So I began, and it's important because in a quantum understanding of life, it's really important to be aware of the gradient, if you will, of all possibilities, because all possibilities are simultaneously existing and affecting one another. So if we collapse the wave function completely all the time, we do lose a certain amount of richness. At least at the time, it seemed to me it was useful to ask not only for a yes or a no, but is it on a scale of 0 to 10, is it a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4? And I could quickly go through and get yes or no for each of those numbers. Excuse me. So now I had a way to get a finer calibration. And the universe was very happy to play with me, in this way. But the universe will not be contained in any finite system. So pretty soon the numbers that I was receiving, and the process became faster and faster. It wasn't some tedious, is it a 0? Is it a 1? No, it could happen very quickly, like a gauge kind of going really quickly and then stopping at the appropriate number. So the universe decided not to stop at 10 anymore, and then it went to 11, like Spinal Tap. This one goes to 11, talking about amplifiers. And then it went eventually to really big numbers, and then infinity, and then beyond infinity. And beyond infinity was really interesting because I needed a different concept. It was no longer about, the resonance was no longer about how big something is. It became more qualitative. What is the nature of the resonance, which brought in consciousness? What is the flavor of consciousness that a particular opportunity is connected with? So I still was living according to the yes, which is to say the highest resonance, which was no longer a yes. It was a way of gauging the empowerment of something, the rightness of something. And then over time, by following the yes, which was whatever the greatest resonance was I had access to, the process took me deeper and deeper and deeper. And additional, I'll say now, depths of resonance opened up and took me into profound states of awareness that are much deeper. So I talk about the roots of our being. I said earlier, the roots of our being and the depth of our being. Those depths go way beyond our individual self. They go way beyond what we think of as a human, at least, a human body especially, but even a human mind and a human soul. They go way deeper than even the collective being and beings. They go all the way to the divine. They go actually, I would say, deeper than any concept, any notion we have of divinity. Like these roots go really, 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 really deep. And as I went deeper in my own process of exploration, again, it was an R&D process of research, like hardcore. Like I spend hours a day systematically testing the resonance of things. So in that process, I began to, I would say, embody some of those states, hopefully, and then have access to them so that when I'm working with clients, I'm able to help them to find the path of greatest resonance. And even if they haven't done the exploration that I've gone through over the last 8 years, I can help them find their flow and find the flow of their organization by finding the opportunities that are most awake and most empowered and most in service. Now, not every potential client would be interested in the opportunity that's the most conscious and the most in service. Well, then we don't work together. We don't find each other. Somehow, in the wonderful way that you and I connected, clients find out about me, or I find out about them, and it just happens. The field brings us together. It's effortless. There's no promotion so far, at least with Sourcing the Way, although it probably would help and will serve at some point. So anyway, I would offer that resonance mapping is the tool I use to live. What airplane ticket I'm going to buy, where I'm going to go. I resonance test all of it. And it's really the same idea as somebody who uses muscle testing. But imagine that if you use muscle testing or you use a pendulum or some other method, imagine that you do it all the time with everything, not just the big life decisions, but everything. And the field the divine gets really excited when we're in that continuous conversation, not just checking in once a week, like, hey, how you doing? But like, I'm making myself completely available to the divine, and then I become an instrument. And resonance mapping is one of the gifts of that, and I'm still discovering, what it is and how to use it. But there you have it.
Oh,
whatever it is.
Yeah, you're giving me the biggest heart on. It's like, so good. It's just, I feel it with every inch of my soul. There's a couple of things I want to ask you. You said before earlier about, promoting your business and the clients finding you. I noticed that about you when I was stalking you. It's because, we were talking like before off the record, and we're talking about how we came together. And for those listening, it was this divine interaction that it was just pure intuition, and I followed that, and I trusted that. And so, but you mentioned that within clients as well, because I noticed that, you're not, as much as you're on Facebook, you're not on Facebook, and you've got a very unique way of attracting clients. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, I love Facebook. I actually used to write software and created various internet platforms, including a social network that was specifically architected, let's say, to allow people to connect at a deeper level. And that was the vehicle, that company called Avenue, was the vehicle for me moving into consciousness and spirituality and transformation. Yeah. And I went through a transformation in that process. And at Avenue, I will say, there was a sense that we had to push. We had to push if we were going to achieve hockey stick-like growth. So hockey stick is to say exponential growth.
Yeah.
The exponential curve looks kind of like a hockey stick. And when you're in Silicon Valley or doing something related to internet startups, you want to go viral. You want hockey stick growth, basically. And if you don't achieve that, and you don't achieve that fast, then the investors will look at you as a failure. So, we were afraid we were going to fail. Well, we did in that sense. We never achieved hockey stick growth, and there are good reasons for that. The company was about our own personal transformation and a process of discovery. And the social network I mentioned allowed hundreds of people, hundreds, not hundreds of millions, let alone billions, but hundreds of people to connect meaningfully and heal together. So we had people who had addictions and really traumatic life experiences that they needed to heal from. And so support groups kind of emerged organically. And so this was proof to me that the online space actually is totally conducive to real connection and presence. And that's a little bit of a sidebar conversation, but maybe it's related, because the people who found Avenue found it in magical, mysterious ways. Again, not in huge numbers, but somebody read a blog somewhere and it was obscure, and they would never find that blog again if they went looking for it, but it was enough in the moment for them to find their way to Avenue. So that's kind of been my experience, and I trust that. My business model doesn't require hundreds of millions or billions of people to find me. I'm really committed to working closely with a few people, a few organizations. I tend to work primarily with organizations, but organizations tend to have people in them. So I work with people and organizations. And I love to work with organizations as a collective being. So imagine, if it's a company that has a high purpose and a purpose to serve, and maybe it's a nonprofit organization. So if it's some kind of organization that has a purpose, it probably has a soul, because consciousness says, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, well, this organization, this group is aligned with where I want to go, so I'll come into the picture and help out. So when an organization has a soul, you kind of know it. It's like a relationship where there's something to it that's more than the individual people. It's synergy. It's more than some of the parts. So anyway, I work with a few such organizations, and I work with people who have commitment and passion and purpose, and we just find each other. And I trust the magic and the mystery to bring us together. And to some extent, being on Facebook supports that. I really like that Facebook exists. I also find that it can take a lot of time, and just over the course of any given day, I'd much prefer to be doing the R&D and the meditation and the, not channeling exactly, but that's the word that comes to me in the moment. So doing that, which brings me a lot of joy and really nourishes me. And then if something really cool comes through, I might post it on Facebook, but also I might not, because these days I'm committed to this is funny, to not inflicting my partial knowledge on people. Like, I want to really be clear about something before I say, hey, this is something, to take to heart. And I know that actually even half-formed insights can be very helpful, and I don't want to be stingy, but I do feel like there's an integrity for me. At some point I'll know when a body of work is ready to be shared, and then I have a sense I'll be very busy, and I'll be writing a lot, and I'll be posting a lot, or maybe someone will be helping me to post, which would be ideal, because to me, working as a team brings a lot of joy, co-creating. So that's the old model of, Jeff is out there as the Lone Ranger, and that just doesn't seem to work for me. It doesn't seem to work much these days. So I do see people, so that the same divine process of coherence that brings us together, is bringing teams and groups together into organizations. Like, I'll give one example: Unity Earth, which is based in Melbourne. It's a worldwide, kind of loosely organized so far group of people who are committed to convergence of various spiritual traditions, of wise environmental stewardships. That's why it's Unity Earth. It's not just unity of peoples and religions and spiritual traditions, but it's unity with the earth, which is, of course, a powerful form of spirituality, actually, and not to be excluded in the least. So bringing that really explicitly into the picture, bringing our mother and life giver into the picture is important. I'm working closely with Unity Earth and another organization where Earth is on the board. Like, Earth has a board seat. Although that's informal initially, we're going to find a way for that to be official.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's really fun to innovate and to innovate together and consciously. So we're using resonance mapping in all of these organizations to inform the decision-making process. And I know I've gone beyond the scope of your question, but
fantastic.
I think that'll do.
That's I love that. It's there's so much wisdom in there. Like, it's you said a word and it come up for me too, because in this, how do you then navigate? Because it's one thing to listen to your intuition or your body. It's another thing trusting it.
You can say that again. Yeah. Well, that's where practice comes in, and you start with whatever level of trust you have, and somehow, even if there's a little bit, it's enough. But my experience is we need to be consistent in our practice, and then more and more capacity opens up. It's like, your muscles get stronger. So your trust muscle will get stronger with practice.
Absolutely. So with I want to ask how you call in your clients, and even not just clients, even your co-creators. So all of your team, who do you work with? Because the thing is like, like myself, I've been in multiple different collaborations and partnerships that have failed tremendously. But I love a good co-creation and collaboration. Like, it rocks my world. But for a long time, it was a beautiful alignment, and then it would just fall. It'd just fall away. So how do you? I think I already know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. How do you navigate through that? How do you find these amazing clients without being on every platform all at once, still in this beautiful R&D place and practice within yourself and still make money and run a business and do all of these things that we have to do? That's a really big question, I know.
Yeah, well, and let me answer really candidly that it was maybe a 4-year process of really stripping down my life and being lean, being nimble, and able to function without a lot of income initially, because I would say I wasn't ready yet. I was having to learn what it is that we're now talking about, and not only learn it, but develop some degree of mastery. And my business partner was frustrated because, let's say, her financial needs were more than mine, and she has other sources of income, and so it's really worked out well. And now it's really working because I'm able to, I would say for the last, maybe 6 months or a year, able to seemingly bring in much bigger deals because something in me was ready. And I guess maybe one of the takeaways is don't give up your day job too early, because we do need to be ready for the new paradigm or new paradigms, for working in a new way. And at some point the floodgates do open. So it is possible to have one foot in both worlds. I know the tendency, at least that I've seen, is to want to jump fully into the new before it's time, and that's when we can really we can suffer financially. And so I'm glad that I had a unique path, and I'm not proposing everyone become a monk, basically, which is financially speaking what I did. But voluntary simplicity has been very helpful. Now, more present day, how do I call in? Well, it is true to say that I call in clients because I'm ready to serve. The doors are open. I'm ready to be used, and I'm committed to not doing work just to pay the bills. So there's something in me that gets to be a little bit stubborn about that, which the divine seems to like a lot. So I'm committed to working at that high level, and maybe the world has shifted as well, so that there are more other people and organizations that are committed, and uncompromising about it. But yeah, when you're, well, this sounds a little bit self-congratulatory, but when you're ready, something becomes a little bit luminous, a little bit radiant, and people notice that and tell their friends. So really, it's just gone by word of mouth, and there's room for more. There's room for a few more clients. I would say, though, that there's always room for more because the sign is out there, and I'm here to serve. But I'm not. Part of me isn't advertising because it's really important to always have time for the R&D, always have time for the deep diving exploration into what is true, and how I can always go to the next level. So this is one of the disadvantages of Jeff. Jeff doesn't particularly like to do the same thing many times. So I'm always leaning into the next level of capacity, the next level of consciousness, of awakeness. And so sometimes people who aren't interested in continuing to grow kind of recede into the rearview mirror, and that's okay too. And that actually brings me back to something you said earlier, which is you're in a co-creation that's going awesomely well, and then something stalls, something stops working. It could be that one or the other party has grown, and not everyone is growing at the same pace. And if there's consciousness about that, and you can check in, so what's happening here, then there's the opportunity to recalibrate the system and continue moving forward together. But there might not be that capacity, and also it might just be that the collaboration or co-creation is complete. So when you have a method of guidance, and you can ask, even if it's yes or no, even if it's the gut sense, which isn't a just at all. In fact, the gut is the basis of all of this. Then I guess that brings up, do we trust it? So the gut might be saying, hey, this co-creative relationship is over. but then something else in us doesn't want it to be over. And so we're kind of at odds with ourselves. But with practice, we can know. With practice, we can know when something's ripe to begin, and we can know when something is complete. And especially when we're on a growth trajectory, we go through chapters very quickly. And so we have to be willing to let go and detach from what we were attached to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, there's your words just, they're landing and they're resonating, and I'm just trying to feel into where and what. I want to ask a lot of the people who are going to be watching and listening to this is if they're trying to be all things all at once, like they've got a lot of plates spinning, you know. So, you know, something like a part of the hedonistic way is, you know, like I've got a partner. We've been together for nearly 19 years. We have 2 kids. I have a business and my partner has a career and all of these things. How then do, for us who have got the plates are spinning constantly all the time, I love like the depth and the dedication and the devotion and all of those beautiful things that you just radiate. How do we do that in everyday life? Or even for you, I'm sure, when you go home, and things like that. So what do you do to bring that pleasure and that connection and that joy, let's say, in those moments?
Sure. Well, and I want to honor that people have a lot of plates and responsibilities, real responsibilities to family and to children and to businesses and to customers and clients, and all of that is true and beautiful. So there has to be a way that all of that can happen. Yeah. And I guess part of the pattern of innovation involves the early pioneers being really super focused and even like kind of maniacally dedicated to one thing. And so they don't necessarily live hedonistically. Most people who know me wouldn't say that I'm a hedonist, but on the other hand, there's a hedonist in here somewhere, I'm sure. And I'm really excited to be on this call because I feel like it's part of my kind of stepping more fully back into a broader experience of life. So yay, yay, yay. And not everyone has to be the early pioneer. The early pioneers tend to get beaten up and, shot in the back and, all that stuff. I don't know. I've had it pretty gently, I think. But nevertheless, it can be a rough road. And yeah, I guess I've had my rough road in certain ways. So the good news is not everybody has to take the rough road. And once the road has been traveled a few times and it gets patched up and eventually it gets paved, then it's possible for all of us to walk that road if we choose. So I have no doubt that somebody with a long-term, loving partner and 2 kids and a business and lots of Facebook friends and, so much more, I'm sure. I'm convinced that you can have it all, and that, I guess, is the hedonistic way. That we're here to have it all. Maybe not in equal measure, but it's all available to us, and it would be incorrect to think that any of it is off limits. So I would propose, like for instance, with the consciousness of money, people come who have families and they have businesses, and we discover by following the current of the conversation wherever it leads that. When we come into a really conscious, highly conscious relationship with money, which is pretty much almost synonymous with a highly conscious relationship with life, then we can especially have all of life. life makes, I'll say, herself available to us in her fullness when we increase our consciousness. When we increase our consciousness, we increase our capacity to do more. So be a hedonist and be conscious and, make a lot of money and have a lot of joy. And along the way, I would say there's a high correlation. Be of service, make a contribution. If that piece is left out, then like the foundation is shaky.
Exactly. Absolutely. It is so true. It is, and that's it. It's, it's that, I was saying earlier on, it's that humility, isn't it? It's, being, a humble, devoted student, So, you mentioned at the beginning of this, because you said something in there that I think, the consciousness, what I'm just trying to remember what you said now, is the level of, the more you expand your consciousness, the more you can give and the more you can expand into all areas. And you mentioned a couple of things earlier, like, people's worthiness and enoughness and feeling that. And you also mentioned understanding what money is. So can you share more about that?
Specifically about what money is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me say also, I love to promote my friends.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's part of what you might call the gratitude economy, where we're all supporting one another, and we don't have to work so hard to get the word out. So Sarah wrote a book, and a book maybe you could say came through her actually, called Love Money, Money Loves You, which has a lot to say about what money is, and it seems to be money talking. So, as a rule, I like to defer to the thing itself to say what it is. But nevertheless, what I'm learning is that money is not just an energy that moves around. It is a conscious force. It has designs. Money wants to be used beneficially. It enables co-creativity. It enables people to come together in a relationship of exchange. And so exchange can take many forms, which is to say then that money is not only in the form of Aussie dollars or US dollars or any kind of official currency. Actually, an energy exchange is a form of money exchange.
Yes.
Love is exchanged routinely. So we can look at money as very multidimensional, and we can then appreciate that we have a lot of it. There's a lot of money available to us. And in the book, Love Money, Money Loves You, it is said there are billions of dollars and more available for every person on the planet. And in that case, it does take the form of official currency. So again, we can have it all. It starts by realizing that we are enough. We have enough love and abundance available to us, and then we can become curious about how to tap into it more. If we start with the belief that we don't have it, then we don't got it, right? Like what is that statement maybe from the Bible? Those who have, all will be given, or much will be given, and to those who have not, all will be taken away from. Anyway, so pardon my poor paraphrase, but that's the idea. Something in us needs to shift into the mode of being enough, having enough, and then suddenly we get all of it. We get everything. So money is, coming back to that question, in a sense, the delivery mechanism of life. Life bringing us love, bringing us energy, bringing us experiences, bringing us the wherewithal to purchase things that in a kind of typical economy need to be purchased that way. So money is multiform, and money is love, and it loves you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it definitely will flow better if you love it back.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Definitely. Absolutely. I love what you said there, like money is more than energy, it's consciousness. And with that then, do you then embody that? So does that make sense?
Yes. So embodiment is a work in progress. And I guess it would be, I get that it's accurate to say I am embodying that. Am I embodying that fully? I get that there's room to grow, and that excites me, because then there's the curiosity about what does a fuller embodiment of appreciation, gratitude for money, for life look like. Maybe I was fully embodied yesterday, and I don't know that I should make that claim, but let's just suppose I was. Today, more potential opens up, more life is available, more experiences are available, more opportunities to express, and this is probably the key, to express that gratitude, express that love, and receive the reciprocation from life.
Yes, absolutely. Gosh, there's so many nuggets in there, Jeff. Is that embodiment is a practice, and absolutely, because so many times it's like, it's we just need to embody it, but it's not done, right? So it's an everyday way of life. You mentioned a couple of times curiosity. I love that word, and that excites me, and I always get a big yes traveling through my body. Why is curiosity so important?
Why is curiosity so important? I want to get the ocean in.
Yeah,
there you go.
so
Because there is vastness. There is more. And the pathological version of more is I need to possess more, and I need to put it in storage lockers, and anyway, we could probably riff on that for a little while. And fortunately, the vastness is what we are, and it's all around us, and oh my God, OMG, in Facebook speak. So maybe not everyone is an adventurer or an explorer, but I sure am. And so I love to scan the horizon. I love to go to the horizon and beyond. And of course, the horizon keeps moving. So the curiosity is never completely satisfied. It's really healthy to have curiosity, because it keeps us expanding. It keeps us growing. It keeps us open. If we think we know it all, well, heaven help the person who thinks they know it all. And I've been there. I've definitely been that person, alas. But gosh, as soon as we close down, I want to say we die. That's what comes to me. We begin the process of dying. Yeah. So curiosity keeps us open to life, keeps us alive. And don't be surprised if we really learn to be curious and stay in curiosity, which is similar to staying childlike, which is one of the spiritual teachings, then I see us living to much riper ages. Let's say 150, 200 years. That's actually possible. But as soon as we start to close down to life, and we get fixated on what we were told happens when you're 60 or 80. If we believe that, it's like if we believe we're separate, guess what we're going to experience? We're going to experience that when you're 80, things start to break. Maybe when you're 60, when we're 60, things start to break. Well, we don't have to believe that, and curiosity helps us to stay open to the possibility that we don't know much of anything. Yeah. And so discovery becomes the priority rather than knowing.
I agree. So what comes to mind is, how many times have you heard the story about, they only just retired, and not long after that, they passed away or they transitioned, and, and their body started to shut down. And we hear it all the time, and they're things that we know, and I agree. It's and you know what? I won't say, well, I want to say some of my favorite clients. I will say that, because some of my favorite clients have been, 50, 60 plus, because I love that they've been there, they've done that, there's no bullshit, they know what they want, and they're just like, I'm going to live the second half of my life the way I want. And I love their zest for life. It's just, their outlook is just incredible. I love that. They're my favorite. They're just amazing, which is awesome. I want to close off this conversation, but I feel like there's something that I want to know more about, and I don't know what it is. So if I hand that over to you and go, if there's something that you feel to share with me, with everybody listening, what would you want to say?
Right. Well, that's a big question. And the way that I begin to answer is to go through this architecture of realization, this map of consciousness, if you will, and see like where is the nugget located? What are the spiritual coordinates of that which you're intuitively sensing? And the spiritual coordinate corresponds to a kind of oneness, a kind of deep appreciation of the unity that we make together, of the mysterious, invisible connections that connect us all to the point that like you're me and I'm you, and we get to be diverse and we get to have unique, differentiated experiences, and all of that's totally true and part of what makes the greater wholeness so amazing and miraculous. But that, you know, when we are doing deep work, we are not only doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for everyone. And we don't have to die on a cross to make that point. In fact, like this conversation, I feel something shifts in me, something shifts in you, something shifts for everyone who experiences this this lovely talk, and people who don't even. So I guess that's part of how we can be in service. And when we're in service, when everything we do is with the knowledge that it's a gift to totality, it's a gift to all of life. Everything we do, even the quote mundane stuff, even the expense report, the way we do it can make it a gift to life. Then life really takes note. Oh, here's an instrument. Here's an instrument in service, and let's not cut this life off too quickly. So this relates to those wonderful youthful clients of yours. I have an octogenarian friend who's about to turn 87, who, at least from her behavior, could be 37. And the world needs more alive, empowered people. And when we know ourselves beyond ourselves, when we begin to tap into the roots of ourselves, where all of our roots come together in that oneness, then each reflection, each person, each experience becomes a really cool and interesting mirror. And we can be curious until the cows come home about every experience that way. And we'll probably have a longer, healthier, more satisfying hedonistic life.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I absolutely agree. You have left me, I kind of feel at so many points throughout connecting with you now, like I felt speechless, because I've been filled with absolute gratitude. You know, I feel like I want to cry, because what a blessing it is that, you know, everybody, a part of that I've spoken to, and I've been so selective as to who I've invited to be a part of this. And every single conversation, it blows me away. And I just feel I feel proud, and I feel really honored that we can be a part of this collective and this oneness, and just do things in a way that feels so good for us, but we are serving and we are so dedicated to giving to others and igniting that, and the ripple effect of that excites me. You know, it just excites me that there's so many amazing people that are doing amazing things, and the more we light up, and you know, I know that everybody watching will just get so much out of this call. And me speechless doesn't happen very often. But I have just, because your words just landed, you know, and there's something just about allowing that to travel through your body, you know. And I know that everybody watching, like, you know, and listening, like, you could listen to everything that you've said so many times, and it has been filled with absolute wisdom. So I just want to thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really honored. I really am.
Well, and I feel the same. I am massively grateful for this opportunity to open up and be hedonistic, and to see your light shining. I mean, it's very bright, and I look forward to learning a lot more about you and your work, and happy to render you speechless. I guess, you know, it's good that I like to talk sometimes. But really, this has been a divine delight, and I'm super energized. Actually,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
that's a good sign. A
Yay.
big yes.
Yes. That's, I was saying in an interview this morning and that's because I was being interviewed, and that is a big thing, isn't it? Is the work that you do and you feel energized.
Mhm.
Like, that is the big yes. That is the screaming yes. Like, that is where it's at. Absolutely. Definitely. Um, Now, you are doing amazing work and traveling worldwide kind of constantly. So I'm going to put all of the links to your website below, and they can get in contact with you. And I will absolutely encourage everybody to contact Jeff, and, or reach out. And at the end of this, what I will ask you, Jeff, is if you're open then to, once this goes live, invite you in, and if anyone's got any questions, if you can pop in and maybe make
Yeah.
contact and answer the questions and things
Oh,
like that.
perfectly. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfectly open to that. In fact, that is flow. That is responding to interest organically. So I'm widely available
Yeah.
to have further conversations. And I love Zoom. We can have a Zoom call with a group, or whatever works. Just let's
Cool.
be open to the possibilities, which are beyond what I can imagine right now.
Oh, awesome. That's yes. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. I could just thank you forever. So I'll just make that one the last.
Okay, well, thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my consciousness, as the teacher says, and yeah, much love. Thank you so much, Renee.
Aw, thank you. Thank you.